I'm Richard.
And I'm Will.
And together we're
The Irreverent Nerds. Bum, bum, bum.
Nerds! For those of you who are not yet aware, we are currently offering a monthly subscription service for our listeners for the low price of $2.99 per month. I mean, that's like the price of what? A 12-ounce drip coffee at Starbucks or half of a Starbucks latte? For $2.99 a month, subscribers will gain access to 2 brand new bonus episodes dropping on the first and third Fridays of each month, plus our entire back catalog of bonus episodes. And that ranges from our most recent film review of the 2023 movie Flash, going all the way back to another movie, our very first bonus episode, which not coincidentally is connected to Flash, and that is Tim Burton's 1989 film Batman. And there's a lot in between that you're going to miss out on if you don't subscribe. So hey, click on the link in the description today to get started. Nerds, thank you so much. Now back to today's episode. Nerds! We are here, which is my van, and we are in the parking lot of an AMC theater this time, which is not our normal fare. In fact, I don't think we've been to this theater since the last time we watched an anime movie. Yeah, normally we go to either the Grand here in town, which has bigger screens and it has more of like the what we call amphitheater seating where it goes down, whereas this one is pretty much flat for the most part. At least the theater room that we were in was that. But they do have recliners now, and they have a full bar here, which I know you don't care about that, but that's pretty awesome. Like, you can get a cocktail and take it into a movie. That's pretty awesome. Like, so I'll probably come back here at some point.
Well, I chuckled about it when I realized there was a full bar in the theater. That's not something you see.
No. That's the first time I've seen it. So I guess that's a new AMC feature, trying to compete with all the other theaters. Like, I think the very first theater I went to that had served alcohol and like a full meal like a legit meal that you could take in. It was this theater. I can't remember the name of it, but it was in Chapel Hill.
Oh, cool.
And
cool.
I found it online. I think I was looking for a place. I don't know. I just wanted one of those days. I just wanted to take a road trip, and I was by myself, which is kind of lame, but I still enjoyed it. Like, I went to Chapel Hill. I don't even remember what I saw, but yeah, I went there to see a movie, and they had a full restaurant in the front, and you could get alcohol. This was like, I don't know, 5-6 years ago probably. It's the first time I'd ever had been able to take a beer with me into the theater, which is pretty awesome. And then it's just spread. So now like, even in the marketplace, like now every theater here in our town, I think the Aperture downtown, which is independent, they show primarily independent films.
Yeah.
They were the first, I think, to offer it here in this area because they're downtown. They're kind of classy, like they offered wine.
I think, didn't we see the Tree of Life there once?
We did. Yeah. With your wife, actually. I'm trying to remember. I think the last movie I saw there was Black Swan, which that's probably been almost, I don't know how many years ago that's been. I want to say I don't even know, 2014 maybe? It's been a while, which is kind of sad.
Yeah,
I think I did go to see a couple of TV episodes there, but it's been a long time. I need to make it back over there. I don't have a good excuse, honestly, because I do enjoy independent films. Now, typically, if I go to the theater, I do like seeing something that's both a visual spectacle and has an enjoyable plot and everything else. Like, if I'm seeing like just a drama piece, I typically don't go to the theater for that. I don't know.
Right.
I'm assuming you don't do that too often either.
No, I mean, I don't really. Drama is not entirely my thing. More into action, adventure, comedy. Sci-fi.
Speaking of which, that just made me think of Free Guy. I've never seen that. Have
I
you seen
liked
it?
it.
Did you like it?
Yeah.
One day we'll review it. Maybe.
I saw it in theaters.
Oh, did you? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I did not. Well, obviously, I haven't seen it yet, so just hadn't gotten around to it. I do like Ryan Reynolds though, so I've been anticipating enjoying it whenever I do see it. So anyway, what did we come here to see? Will, do you remember the name?
I have no idea. I went in so blind. This is the blindest movie I've ever gone in to see. I didn't even see a trailer. I didn't even know the name. I didn't know nothing about this film except it was an anime. We get in there in Japanese, and I'm like, Richard, you took me to a subtitle film. That's okay. That's okay. I just don't. I don't get to be lazy tonight. I have to read these subtitles, but
They had
that's
English.
it's how you enjoy anime.
They had English dub, but it wasn't until 10 o'clock. So I was like,
Okay.
I'm not staying up that late. They had like a 4 o'clock showtime and a 10 o'clock in English dub, and then they had like or something like that. Anyway, yeah, I was like, no, I'm not waiting until 10 o'clock for English dub.
Us anime purists got to see the subtitled one.
Yeah, which I do enjoy, especially if the Japanese acting is excellent, which in this case it was. Like, I thought the voice acting was excellent.
Yeah. So the film was Psychopath something or another.
Psychopath Providence, I believe is the title.
Psychopath Providence?
Psychopath.
Path?
Psycho-path Providence. I believe that's correct.
Oh, okay.
Obviously, if I'm wrong about the minutia, we'll correct it when we put the title on the episode. But I myself, I only knew that it was a series because we got, I don't know if you had noticed it on Crunchyroll, but the series has been popping up on the homepage of Crunchyroll, so I had seen like the little thumbnail, but I don't think I knew anything else about it other than just I knew it was on Crunchyroll.
I haven't been using Crunchyroll lately, so I didn't know. I figured out it was a series watching this film and being like, there's a whole lot of backstory here I don't know anything about. This must be a series. Huh?
Yeah, this is one of those films that takes place, apparently it's already had 5 seasons at this point.
Oh, cool.
And so that reminds me of X-Files. Like, there was, the first X-Files movie came after 5 seasons, so... And yeah, there's obviously a lot of backstory, but so I had some doubts about it, but actually this came on the recommendation of the both the group more generally, but also a specific member of the Winston-Salem anime group on Facebook, of whom the Irreverent Nerds fan page is a part, or is following, connected to, and they made a post about it because I didn't know the movie was coming up because we hadn't been watching the series, so I wasn't aware that was coming. But I do try to keep an eye out, for anime films that pop up, because usually they're only out for like 1 week.
Yeah.
And we've caught a few other ones, and you guys can go back in our backlog like we did that time I got reincarnated as a slime, Scarlet Bond, the movie.
Dragon Ball Super, superhero.
Yeah, and I think that was the first one we went to, and that was actually my first Dragon Ball experience, and it was enjoyable. I really liked it. It was very Piccolo heavy movie, which I didn't know that was abnormal for the series, but I liked it. It was good.
Well, Piccolo is a great... we're not talking about that, though. Piccolo is a great character, though. But back to Psychopath or Pass or whatever it is.
It's either Psychopass or Psychopath. Probably Psychopass. Providence. Yeah. I'll make sure I get it right in the title. Apologies to the people that really love it. Again, I like literally just found out about this series. Like, I didn't know what it was about until today. Like, literally today. And I saw that it was in our local theater, and I knew it would probably only be here for a week. So I was like, hey, and it also happened to fall on Anime Week, so we're here.
Yeah.
So for those of you who, like me, 2 days ago, didn't know what the hell this movie was about, let's see if we can try and describe it. So it takes place... I did read this part online. I think they also talked about it in the film. Like, 2118, the year 2118, or 2118 is when it takes place in Japan. Like, I think it pretty much entirely takes place in Japan. And I missed a little bit at the front, so you can maybe fill in if you remember. They described the geopolitical scene a little bit. That I don't know if there was like world wars. There was some kind of massive, almost planet-wide disruption, and apparently Japan was one of the few countries that escaped unscathed and was like, they called it like, I don't know, like a haven for peace or something. I didn't catch all of it because it kind of came on the screen fast.
There was this big paragraph of text, and apparently Richard read more than I did because it came and went really fast.
Yeah,
I didn't even get to read half of it.
I looked over and Will was like,
Yeah.
"What? what? I didn't have, what?"
If you're going to give us text, give us enough time to read it.
Yeah, well, they're like, well, if you were Japanese, you would read more quickly.
Probably.
I have heard that they have a better educational system than we do in America. At least on the average educational system, they take their shit very seriously.
No summer vacation.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that doesn't. I mean, if you think about it,
keep going straight through.
Like when you get out, you graduate from university,
like maybe a week off.
Like you don't get a summer vacation in the real world unless you're a professor or a teacher. But otherwise, like you got to work all year round. Like you don't get a break. Like you don't get summer vacation.
Well, Americans are spoiled.
Yeah. Yeah. Not that being said, I loved my summer vacations as a kid, and I'm sure the teachers love them as well because teaching is very difficult.
Yeah.
Where was I? Okay, so we're in futuristic Japan. They have become somewhat of a leader, and they have developed. I didn't catch whether it was in coordination with any other country, but they have developed this AI called Sybil. And if I understand correctly, Sybil is. It's essentially. It kind of serves a dual function. It's replacing, like, kind of maybe the executive function of a government, maybe even to some extent the legislative, although I didn't quite catch whether it replaced that, but definitely the executive function, I think, of government. And on a religious note, which this film does deal a lot with religion as well, there's a sense in which, at least for some people, the AI Sybil has also I don't know if replaced God is the right word, but maybe become a god of a sort.
Right. Well, that was definitely the viewpoint of the antagonist of the film. I don't think that other people necessarily saw Sybil that way.
Yeah.
But there was a opposing AI that our antagonist saw as a god, or his god.
Yeah, and you don't, well, spoiler warning, obviously, if you haven't, well, we haven't seen any of the series, so in some sense we've spoiled some of the series for ourselves, because I got the impression, like, there were certain very characters that I'm assuming have been important throughout the series that meet their end. So spoiler warning to all of you who love this series, but haven't seen the movie yet. You probably would already know. Don't listen to this until you see the movie, because I don't want to do that to you. If you've been watching this for 5 years,
this movie heavily changes the status quo of this series.
Yeah, and you could tell like that there was backstory, like you said, of several of the major characters, and I know I'm not going to get the names exactly right because there were so many Japanese names, and I was trying to like read the subtitles the whole time as well, and like I'm going to miss some of them, but in terms of their function in the story, hopefully we'll get that right. So let's see. So main characters. So you have, actually, you could probably bring it up on your phone. We at least get the names right.
I was just going to call him cute lady, undercover guy. Prodigal son. Okay, let's just look this up now.
Yeah. So while he's doing that, just an overview that it seems that the Japanese government is quite complex at this point. There's like multiple agencies, and there's some major changes that are happening due in no small part to the rise of Sybil, the AI, and decision, which it sounds like was not fully democratic. Like, that seems to be where some of the conflict is that one of the main characters, she is very much an advocate for democracy, for the voice of the people to be involved in a decision as to whether to fully adopt Sybil. And then there's others that are taking a more autocratic approach to it. All right, so we got our character list here.
Yeah, I don't remember who's who except for Shindo and
Okay, so yes, our
Tsunemoni.
Our main female protagonist is Akane Tsunemori, and I don't know if you call him our main male protagonist. He's definitely one of the primary male supporting characters, but Shinya Kogami.
Right.
And both of those characters appear pretty early on. I think Kogami appears first because doesn't it start with like a combat?
Yes.
Yeah, it starts with a combat scene where he's sent in to help. Pretty cool, by the way. He like base jumps off a plane onto a boat, like that. That takes some balls. Like to base jump off of a moving plane onto a moving boat, and I guess he had some kind of guidance system because like, he lands on the boat and doesn't get killed right off the bat either. Like he stays alive, so he's a very skilled operative.
Right, definitely. Doesn't even have the. I noticed that they were fighting soldiers with padding and helmets and just killing them, but these protagonists don't have anything. Sometimes they're just fighting in suits or street clothes, and like they're fine.
So let's read the premise here. I don't think this will give anything away, but again, we've already given spoiler warnings, so just to give our listeners a at least a cogent summary, because we're probably going to be all over the place.
Right. By the way, speaking of the fights, I found them to be very realistic and choreographed. Choreographed. There we go.
It's okay. We're both tired. It's late. Yeah, I thought so too. I thought, and I'm not familiar. I think I have seen some other work by Toho Animation, but I'm not familiar with their methods. If the characters are completely hand drawn, or if they're hand drawn on a computer.
I don't know, but I think this movie definitely used a lot of CGI for vehicles and different things.
Yeah, which seems to be, even going back to the 90s, was pretty typical for Japanese anime, from at least the ones that I've seen, like Appleseed, and Ghost in the Shell and the like. Even going back to mid-90s had a mixture of CGI and hand-drawn.
I think it's an artistic choice.
Yeah, and I like it. There's some consistency there. Let's see. Okay, so premise. Set in January of 2118, quote, while attending a meeting as a chief inspector of the Public Security Bureau, Akane Tsunemori received a report that an incident had occurred on a foreign vessel. Akane and Atsushi Shindo, head of the Statistics Division of the Ministry of Health and Welfare. Okay, I never did catch what his official position was, so Shindo's another one of the main characters. So he's the head of the Statistics Division of the Ministry of Health and Welfare. Which that makes sense that he would have some tie-ins with like AI and whatnot, like if you're already handling statistics and analysis.
Yeah.
Let's see. He's also attending the conference, so they rush to the scene. So the incident, that's how the movie opens, and like you have a boat that's traveling, and feel free to jump in with extra details. Actually, do you remember well enough? Do you want to narrate the incident at the beginning?
Well, all these guys come out of this airplane in the sea, and they go on this boat, see, and start shooting up the place, see, and they're all padded, but all the people they're shooting just be wearing security guard uniforms, see. Very, very poor choice in armor. And see, black guy and Russian guy go in and kill this lady, see, chop her head off camera.
Yeah, that was interesting. They had which I don't know how common that is in Japan, but I'm assuming it's not very common to have a black man working for a Japanese security force. I'm sure there are some, but
he was one of the antagonists.
Yes, but they were I think originally, if I caught the details correctly, they were originally like Japanese military of some sort, or something along those lines, and they kind of went, or at least officially went AWOL. Not AWOL, but like rogue, I guess.
Spoiler alert, I think they might have been non-Japanese, maybe military of a different country, because
mercenaries.
Because they said that and this is the spoiler, that Akira, the mole, the spy working for them, which I called the Russian earlier, I think he's Russian, but I'm not sure. They called him by a Japanese name though, but they said that he was working with them because they would not accept a Japanese person. So it just makes me feel like maybe they were not a Japanese group themselves, but I could be wrong about that.
Okay, and the movie is Psycho-Pass. So it's not Psycho-Path.
I saw the poster.
Psycho-Pass Providence. We'll tell you what, your battery's getting low, so let me go ahead and finish this premise, and then we'll keep talking. See. Who was also... Okay, where was he at? Okay, Shindo, head of the Statistics Division of the Ministry of Health and Welfare, who was also attending the conference, rushed to the scene, but for some reason the authority to investigate is delegated to the Action Division of the Overseas Coordination Bureau of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Need an acronym for that. What would that be?
Yeah.
From the ship, Dr. Milicia Strongskaya, which that sounds like Western European, whom Atsushi had invited as a guest for the meeting, is found dead. Behind the incident was the existence of the Peacebreakers, which the Action Division had been pursuing for a long time. So, like rogue soldiers of some sort. The Criminal Investigation Department's Division 1 learns that the incident was caused by the Peacebreaker, who is targeting Dr. Strongskaya's established research known as the Strongskaya Document, and forms a team to conduct a joint investigation with the Behavioral Investigation Department. There they find Shinya Kongami, a former fugitive from the Public Security Bureau. With the cooperation of Joji Saiga, with whom Dr. Strongskaya had last communicated, the team heads for Dejima to obtain the document. Akane and Kogami are confronted with an unexpectedly large case involving the Strongskaya document. A truth is hidden that will shake the Japanese government and the Sybil system. The untold story that connects the missing link between Psycho-Pass Sinners of the System Case 3 on the Other Side of Love and Hate and Psycho-Pass 3 will finally be revealed. So apparently they had a couple of other movies previous to this.
Oh, okay.
So I'll give that back to you so that you can preserve some of your battery. All right. So we got the initial incident. So do you want to talk about the professor and what she was working on?
Well, apparently it was, I don't know. But it had something to do with Sybil. It had something to do with whether or not Sybil would actually work correctly and efficiently. It had some sort of importance to whether or not the traditional legal system should be kept. So it was very important for our protagonists to get their hands on this paperwork, as well as the antagonist, who needed it somehow to finish his own AI. Spoiler.
Yeah, so I think it was just to fill in some holes. To fill in a little bit there. So yeah, the research was intended, and I guess she formed some kind of, I don't know if it's a computer program as well, but some kind of statistical analysis. But the goal was to try to predict, I think in particular, the economic impact, but maybe also legal, like you said, but definitely economic, among other things, like the impact that the implementation of Sybil would have on other cultures, like you said, other societies, and whether that would, I guess, be a positive or negative on the whole. So yeah, some people who are like almost religiously dedicated to Sybil and who like don't want any possible negative information to come out, I guess.
Right.
And
apparently the document had some sort of dirt on the Japanese government.
oh yeah, like what they've been doing, maybe in part with the peacebreakers, appropriately named, I guess. I don't know. But like, yeah, you do get some glimpses of what they've been up to, the peacebreakers, and all the damage that they've done overseas. So yeah, like, which is really interesting how they played. Nerds, we would love to find out who is on the other side of the microphone. There are multiple options by which you can connect with us. Our Instagram handle is @irreverent_nerds. We are on Facebook and YouTube as simply The Irreverent Nerds. Makes sense, right? And of course, we are on your podcast app. If you listen on Spotify, scroll down through the episode description and you will see a question. What did you think of this episode? We welcome your feedback, including your constructive criticism. We also post episode-specific polls and questions from time to time on Spotify, so please feel free to jump in and give us your 2 cents. All right, nerds, I've talked enough. Let's get back to this week's episode. Around that, because, like, I mean, aside from World War II, like, I don't know of any, again, not aware of any type of like overseas action. Like Japan, I think, again, since World War II has stayed pretty neutral, right? Like, I mean, you may be more familiar with that than I have. Like, they've remained relatively neutral in foreign affairs or any kind of military conflicts since World War II.
Japan, yeah, I think that would be accurate.
Which makes total sense. Like, if you got 2 atom bombs dropped on you, you'd be like, yeah, we're good on war for a little while. You know, we just lost, 400,000 people.
Yeah.
I think we're good. You know, yeah. My understanding is that the common populace there is not even allowed to have guns currently. And I think the police are not allowed to use guns. They use martial arts, which is actually kind of cool.
Cool. I didn't know.
But yeah, but in this future, there are these, what did they call them? There are these Dominators, yeah. These specialized guns that are tied into Sybil. And there is and this is where it reminded me of Minority Report. Sybil measures your criminal coefficient, and I guess that's like how likely you are to commit a criminal act.
Right.
And if it goes above a certain level, then the Dominator will activate and allow you to either physically incapacitate them, or if they're serious enough of a threat, to kill them. Like,
right. And apparently that has something to do with Sybil's version of the law. If the Dominator doesn't activate because Sybil doesn't think that your coefficient is high, your criminal coefficient is high enough, then basically you can't be I'm not sure. It seems like you can't be arrested, but at the end of the film, a certain character we won't name yet was arrested, even though the Dominator did not turn on. That was confusing. They said that on the news in the film, that everyone in Japan was confused about why that happened, why the Dominator didn't activate. There was another part in the film where the Dominators didn't activate when the protagonists were facing off against the antagonists, and I think that has something to do with the other AI known as the General, spoiler, maybe confusing Sybil or hijacking the Dominators or something in order to make it look as if the coefficient was not high. Might have something to do with the divider.
Yeah, which if I understood correctly, like they got into like this idea of like both they got into a little bit of the neuroscience of it, like this kind of what they call it, the bicameral theory or something like that, the bicameral division of human consciousness. Essentially, like if I understood correctly, like our ability to, in a sense, like with our minds, like observe ourselves from outside, like to objectively, more or less, or at least as we might perceive it, observe ourselves. I think the way they put it was like from a God's eye view, you know, kind of like look out above and observe ourselves. So what was it? The general kind of takes that to the extreme and like makes the divide stronger, I guess, to where you can like completely separate, and then the general can take over people.
I think that sounds correct.
Maybe they do things they wouldn't normally. It kind of shuts off their connection to their own empathy, and they do things they wouldn't normally do.
Right.
I think they compared it within the film to like the scientific equivalent of a religious frenzy, I think.
Yeah, I didn't understand that, but they did say it. I guess I would have to study and understand religious frenzy better to understand that quote.
I'm assuming they're referencing the type of phenomena that leads to extremism, in particular that leads to extremist violence, you know, like suicide bombings and the like, or flying planes into buildings, or, you know, or the Crusades. I mean, you know, we go further back, you know, or the forced conversion. I mean, you name it, like, but the more modern example, I guess, would be extremist Muslims, you know, who I don't know if frenzy is really the right word necessarily, because it's definitely something that, like, they're recruited.
Yeah.
Usually it's very young men who are recruited, occasionally women, but mostly men, recruited and groomed in a sense by the leaders over time, but they are, like, obviously devoted enough to be willing to, they're able to overcome their own survival instincts in a sense, like for the sake of the cause, so to speak.
Yeah. When I think of frenzy, I think of sharks. I think of sharks getting the sense of blood and just going crazy. So maybe a religious frenzy, a benign religious frenzy, I could maybe equate to a charismatic movement, but
Like getting slain in the spirit,
yeah,
kind of thing.
but perhaps a more negative religious frenzy might be getting worked up by a preacher in order to commit acts of violence or extremism, like you said, caught up in the moment, perhaps.
Yeah, and there's other factors, like there's other movements that don't have a deity at their head that have a similar effect on people, like hyper-nationalism, fascism, you know, like the hyper-nationalism you saw with the Nazi Party, for instance, like, and I don't think everybody that got involved in fighting for Germany was, like, all in, but when you have people like the SS who were, like, they were the people that were, like, completely bought in to the belief system, if you will. But this is definitely a very hyper-nationalism and ethnocentrism of, like, we're the superior race and all their races are subordinate to us, or should be, and there's certain races that shouldn't even exist, like, and they bought in enough to commit, I mean, heinous acts.
Heinous.
So it's like, so yeah, and that, I mean, most of them probably were Lutherans. I think probably a good portion of them probably were Lutherans, but I don't know that there was a lot of, like, religion, strictly speaking, involved in it necessarily. Like, maybe some religious language, perhaps.
In Germany?
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely know that Hitler used religion as a tool. He definitely convinced the churches, not every Christian or religious person in Germany bought into it, of course, but
No, and I would say not every soldier either. I would say probably, like,
to be anti-Semitic, but yeah.
Yeah, I know that unfortunately there were some very anti-Semitic writings that Martin Luther wrote towards the end of his life, and some people speculate he might have been senile at that point. It's hard to say, but
I heard about that.
it was kind of like a laundry list of the very things that the Nazis did, a lot of it, and it was. So I don't know how much of an influence that may or may not have had, but yeah, kind of get into that. That's more like a sustained frenzy, or maybe even bordering on a psychosis, where you're like doing just dehumanizing other people and doing these horrible things, like the gas chambers and you know, and I know that some of the soldiers were probably doing it under threat, fear that they would be killed or their family would be harmed if they didn't go along with it.
Yeah.
I'm sure that was definitely factors in there as well. But then there were probably others who like got some sick enjoyment out of it, or just bought in so much they were so blind to the cause. So I think maybe it has a little bit more of that connotation. Like, that's definitely the kind of energy you feel from the soldiers in this film, like as they're fighting, like the guy that repeatedly gets shot, and then he literally a fighter with a cybernetic arm punches a hole through the guy's intestines all the way out through his back, and then he still has the tenacity / commitment to the cause to blow himself up after that.
I was actually confused because that guy, this is the black man we were talking about. I don't know the character's name, but he got shot in the head.
Yeah.
And apparently had died, but had become quote unquote possessed. I'm confused whether it was the AI possessing him or the main antagonist that serves the AI.
Konami, General Konami. I think they name it Konami at one point. Like,
I think his name was Toonami.
No,
Toonami.
I believe it's Konami, which ironically is also isn't that a company that made Street Fighter? Konami. But it must also be a Japanese name. I believe it was Konami. I think that was the name that was given to the AI, which for a long time you don't know that it's an AI in the film. I don't know about in the series, but in this, as far as this film's concerned, like, you don't know for a long time that it's an AI. So it sounds like that was a revelation, because the main protagonist, Akane, she didn't know. She suspected that it was an AI, but didn't know for sure. And we find out it was actually it was a part of connected to the Sybil program. It was like a sub, I don't know what the IT term would be, but like a subgroup, was meant to be like a patch or like an addition to Sybil, I think.
The document, the paper.
No, the general, like the Konami was designed to be a part of the Sybil program, I think, but never got combined with Sybil, I think.
Right. Sorry, I was distracted looking at the character list. I didn't see the antagonist's name in the character list.
I think that's what they call it, and I guess in part it's to throw both the viewer but also the characters within the story off, like to make them think that there's a person behind it and not just an AI.
Right.
Because like I said, Akane doesn't, she suspects but doesn't know for sure until right there towards the end, and she finds out that it is an AI.
But I actually wonder if the black man was actually dead, but his body was being controlled, like his nervous system was being controlled by the antagonist AI.
That's possible. I hadn't thought of that.
It was talking through him, and he was just taking all sorts of punishment that, even getting his intestines punched out, like you said.
That must be what it is, because at one point, doesn't one of the characters like, "What are you?" or something like that?
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, that makes more sense now. Yeah, it wasn't just his frenzied devotion, but it was like also that there was like literally a detachment from his own pain as he was taken over by the AI, by the general. But yeah, like, I'd like to pause here for a minute and talk about the aesthetics, like the the music and the CGI and the art. Like, what did you think about those elements?
Well, you mentioned X-Files earlier, and that surprised me because this film reminded me a little of X-Files in the music, but only that I heard a couple of familiar piano keys in some of the music. But that's beside the point. Anyway, I really liked the music. It was... I don't know how to describe it. It was good.
It definitely reminded me of other anime music where you get these, like, you have this big action and then you have these more contemplative moments. Actually, Kingdom Hearts is coming to mind a little bit too. Kind of that, cool. Just like that flow, that little contemplative music. Dun, 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 dun. There were moments like that where there's like serious conversation going on, which this movie was, even with its action, it was very dialogue heavy. It had a lot of dialogue.
Yeah.
So what do you think of the art, the artistic choices and stuff?
I really liked it. For some reason, I got used to it, but the skin tone of the characters was very white. I noticed that in the beginning.
Yeah, I think the color tone of the film too, like, had an effect on that. I think it's like the like, this would be similar to, like, if it was live action, there would be like a lens filter of some sort, which can be added digitally later, but like what used to be like a literal filter over a lens, a color filter to change like it also kind of has an effect on the emotional tone of the film. So yeah, it was very like, there wasn't a lot of color in general. Everything was muted with a few exceptions, like the random, like, blonde-headed people, which
right.
I guess in Japan, like, you'd have to dye your hair, because I'm pretty sure no one's born with blonde hair in Japan. At least it'd be pretty rare, I would think. Like, I think most, if people had that, it'd probably be a dye, like dyeing their hair. I don't know, I may be wrong.
Well, that's a confusing thing about anime. Sometimes characters have blonde or even blue or green or red hair. Well, I guess red can be normal. But they have these different hair choices. Sometimes because they're foreigners, but others sometimes just to break things up so that there's more variety, that not everybody has the same hair color. And it can be confusing which one it is. It can be confusing. Are these Japanese people or are these foreigners?
Yeah, there's one female character, very capable fighter. She's tall, blonde, very light skinned. So yeah, she almost looks like European, but she speaks fluent Japanese. Obviously, the actress doing her voice was right. Japanese. But yeah, she looks more European, like, even of European descent.
Are we talking about one of the professors or a different character?
No, like one of the members of the was it the peace force, or the same thing that Akane is a part of, like part of
right, that would
her
be
team.
It's on the tip of my tongue. The safety commission. Safety commission?
Safety Corps.
I don't know.
Safety Corps, something along those lines. Obviously, you guys have been watching the series. You can probably just like, it's that. But this is our first time seeing any of it, so we're still trying to
educate us.
Yeah, we're still trying to keep all the. Yeah, which hopefully this makes this a little more interesting as a review for you, because we're coming in fresh, having not watched 5 seasons. So we have some, I don't know if objectivity is the right word, but just we can kind of observe the film as a film.
You have no bias.
Which I think it works well as a standalone film. Like, I was able to follow along well enough. Like, I didn't feel like there were some elements where I was like, I know my understanding would be deepened, and there'd be moments in the film where I'd be like, what? If I'd been watching it for 5 seasons, like, I got that impression. But they still had weight and impact within the film itself, and I could tell, knowing that there's a series behind it. But even just as the film presented it, it was done well enough that I was like, I still felt the weight of those events for the characters, even not having seen the series, which that's got to be hard to pull off, I would imagine. Like, to make it interesting enough and you know, because they're trying to make money as a theatrical release, so they know not everybody will have seen the series first, like us. We have not, so.
Yeah, the film carried itself well. There was still some moments where I was just like, what? Even though I didn't have a prior attachment to these characters. You know, the climax, the ending, definitely, caught me off guard.
Oh, yeah. So, we're at 45 minutes in, so we can talk about that, I forget the exact, before the final battle sequence, you have, is it Shinjo, he is relieved of, he gives the papers, the Strabansky, I'm getting the names wrong, Strabansky papers to the Peace Corps, and as a result he loses his position.
Peacebreakers.
No, Peace Corps, the corpse,
You sure it's not Peacebreakers?
Yeah, the Peacebreakers are the antagonists.
He
gives it to the.
Okay.
Well, effect, they look like the police, basically, the police, or maybe the equivalent of the FBI for that.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the antagonist. Sorry.
No. And then he makes it through his son, or no, he makes it through the wedding, gives a speech. And then he shoots himself in his car.
Shindo,
yeah, right after the wedding. So then Akane is, in a sense, chosen both by Sybil and by the director of her agency to be... She's like, yeah, you're probably going to be asked to be his successor, and you should take that role. But she decides to kind of go rogue and do her own thing to try and find out answers from the Peacebreakers.
Yeah.
And but at the end, you wanna drop the bomb at the end,
Well, Akane shoots her ex-boss, the director, in public, and
on live television.
and Sybil doesn't think she has the high enough criminal coefficient for the police to make
or at least to shoot her anyway. They're not allowed to shoot her.
Yeah.
Because they definitely moved to shoot her because she's just murdered an important public official.
Yeah. Point blank.
Director of the the director's subordinates, former coworkers of Akane's, take immediate action, but then they can't shoot her because Sybil's nope.
They were at some sort of award ceremony or something, and I'm not sure what it was, but I
she was being installed in Shindo's position. So
really,
yeah.
Okay. Well, the scene before that, she actually said that she quit, so I didn't understand.
Well, she had to leave the corps that she was in to take that position because it was in a different department of the government.
Okay, I get you now.
Yeah. Yeah, which if Will's phone wasn't about to die, I'd go back and read it. But and unfortunately, when we're doing video on my iPad, I can't read anything. I can't have open windows and stuff. So we just have to go by memory. But
yeah.
But yeah, so she
makes it more interesting.
I guess, hopefully. Make you guys got to go look it up for yourselves. So yeah, go do that.
What movie did they watch?
Yeah, Psychopath Redemption. No, Psychopaths Providence. Yes. So let's see. So we don't have too much time left here. Nerd hats. I know we've talked about, or at least I've talked about us having more sophistication in the way we rate this. So if we had one nerd hat for cinematography, one nerd hat for you'd have production value, which I guess could include special effects. You'd have one nerd hat for acting, one for directing, and maybe one for writing. Kind of I don't know, something like that. But we got to figure that system out. But,
yeah.
But yeah, how many nerd hats, just off the cuff, would you give this?
I feel like a 3.5. But I'm not sure if that's a fair assessment. That's just what I'm feeling right now. coming in, not knowing the series, not knowing these characters, it was still a good movie. But I don't know. That's just what's coming to me. I'm not sure. I wasn't blown away, but it wasn't a bad film either. How do you feel?
Let's see. Trying to think. I think the only good writing, good acting.
Yeah, it had good writing.
Good directing. It did get maybe a little too expositional at certain points, but you're dealing with very complex ideas, so they did have to do that to some extent. I think the only, and again, this was, I guess, using the same. They wanted to look the same as the TV series, so they didn't. It doesn't seem like they upped the quality just for the film. It still looked gorgeous, but like the CGI looked kind of video game-ish. It didn't look.
Yeah, I didn't like some of the CGI.
Yeah, it looked a little underdone, so I would take half a nerd hat off for that. But everything else hit really well for me, including the music. So I want to, and it challenged me as well. Like not just because we watched it with Japanese audio and subtitles, but just the content of the film, like.
Joker here. I'd like to take a moment to talk to you about the Irreverent Nerds. They're sitting here in my hideout, all tied up. So they can't say this themselves, but they would like you to know that there are multiple options by which you can connect with them. Their Instagram handle is @irreverent_nerds. They're on Facebook and YouTube as simply the Irreverent Nerds. So pedantic. And of course, they are on your podcast app. If you listen on Spotify, scroll down and you will see a question. What did you think of this episode? They welcome your feedback, or so they told me. They also post episode-specific polls and questions from time to time, so please feel free to jump in and give them your 2 cents while they're still alive. All right, nerds, I've talked enough. Let's get back to this week's episode. It might be their last.
Challenges you, makes you think, and I enjoyed that. I enjoyed a challenge. Like some of the stuff we watched is not particularly challenging, and that's okay because we're trying to have fun too, But this is more like a very, very serious, very, very thoughtful film. I'm going to say 4.5.
Cool.
I thought it was excellent. I thought it was excellent.
Cool.
Yeah. Like I said, the only points I would take off would be for like some of the special effects work, like some of the CGI, with the exception of like that aerial battle towards the end was really good. Like that was really well done. But there were other elements throughout the film. I was like, they could have spent more money on that. Yeah. But again, they only limited release, for like 1 week, so they're not necessarily trying to make a ton of money on the theatrical release.
Yeah, you're right. I probably wasn't fair of my assessment. I am tired after all from my day job. But by the way,
you don't have to agree with me. I mean, you can disagree with me, man. That's
right.
okay.
Well, I'm keeping my assessment, but yeah, who knows? Maybe I'm not giving the film the credit it deserves. But here's a topic I wanted to ask you right quick, just to see if it leads anywhere interesting. I think that you and I have 2 different interesting viewpoints about this. But what did you think about the use of religion in the film? I mean, there's not just religion, but the stuff about the legal system and everything. Some of it maybe I wasn't smart enough to really understand, but the religious aspects, I really appreciated some jokes early on in the film. Centering around some biblical characters. I thought that was some good, lighthearted religious humor.
I like the Apostle Paul and like John.
Yeah, I should go. One character, a professor, says that he should go to Patmos and write a revelation and laughs.
Yeah, what is it? Kagami says to Professor Saiga,
Yeah.
is like, because of your hermiting ways, I would see you more as a John than a Paul. It's like,
Yeah. I was surprised the characters being Japanese, and I was actually surprised they knew that much, honestly.
yeah.
The characters must be well read up, but
Either that, or, and this may be because of our lack of viewing of the series, but I got the impression that, like in 2118, the way they've written the series, that they've written it as maybe Christianity is more popular at that point than it is now in Japan. Because I know right now it's not, at least as I understand it, not
Right.
particularly popular. There's a pretty small, last I heard anyway, a pretty small percentage of Japanese
like
people.
3% or something like that.
Yeah, so it's not, but maybe that's part of the way they've written this, is that became more popular. And obviously,
know.
guys, those of you who have seen the series, you're welcome to fill us in on this. Like, you can, as always, you can like leave us voice messages, or DM us, that kind of thing, on the social medias.
When the movie first started and it was getting into the religious stuff,
Yeah, it jumped
was-
in pretty quick.
yeah,
like-
it jumped in really quick. It was a little weird, and they quoted a Bible verse, and I had to actually look that up after the film just to see if they made it up or not. And well, I need to study more, because apparently it was 1 Timothy 2:18 was
118? Oh, it was
118.
118, yeah.
I think you're right. It was 118. It's actually what it said.
Yeah, and it was contextual as well. Like it I guess, like it, because obviously, like Paul's writing, like just speaking objectively, like he certainly talks about authorities and powers,
Yeah.
both in the world and also divine. Obviously, I mean, and and they even get into the idea, although they put it like a kind of a sci-fi twist on it, the idea of possession, like, and they
Yeah.
reference demon possession, but then in this case it's an AI possessing the brains of humans. So, but it's
Yeah.
the interplay there I thought was interesting. I found that interesting, like between the concepts, which, I mean, part of the way I look at it now at religion is maybe just for myself is a little more naturalistically in the way of, like, it's like, hey, this is, now I'm not calling this my theory of religion so much as I think there are aspects of it that just like those are words we have given to experiences we've had or phenomena that we've experienced, and these are words we have chosen to represent that, and then stories, we build stories up around these ideas or these concepts. Sometimes we create personas or characters to, in a sense, embody our understanding of the universe. So, like, it's just a different frame of reference, and you find these different frames of references all over the world, like thousands and thousands of different, which just from getting to know other humans and other human cultures, even in understanding my own better, it's fascinating to me. Like, my inner anthropologist finds it fascinating, I guess. Yeah. How about you? How did you feel about it? I know you've talked a little bit already, but
Well, I mean, it's always, as a religious person, it's always a iffy kind of situation to use my religion in something, because, like, I appreciated the jokes, but then I didn't necessarily appreciate that the antagonist was quoting New Testament Bible verses, but and seems to be the case in Japanese anime that villains are often, not always, but spouting Christian dogma. Anyway,
that happens in American films
yeah,
sometimes.
that's true too.
Sometimes.
That's true too.
Not always.
And I won't lie, there is militant extremism even in Christianity, which I disagree with. I disagree with that.
Oh yeah, I mean, just
Yeah.
look at things like the KKK. I mean, they
Yeah.
avowedly Christian, use Christian terminology, but the majority of Christians I've known over the years, my former self included, and obviously you would not condone the kind of violent acts that the KKK perpetrated against Black Americans, or the overtly and covertly too, but like definitely. You talk about overt racism, that's one of the first things that would come to mind, the KKK.
Yeah.
But yeah, they would definitely use a lot of religious terminology and justifications for their actions, which I know a lot of Christians would disagree with the actions, like
right,
and wouldn't appreciate some of those phrases or being used in that way.
So, from the beginning of the film, I felt that maybe the antagonistic group was a cult, but that didn't turn out to be the case. They were not worshiping the God of the New Testament. They were, or some sort of false version of the God of the New Testament. They were worshiping this AI, and the AI, nor the group, claimed that this was the God of the New Testament. Why they were spouting a Christian Bible verse and whatnot at the beginning of the film, I'm not sure why, but they definitely saw the AI as a god, not the monotheistic God of the Abrahamic faith.
Maybe that's part of the because, like, I don't know if this is still the case in Japanese culture, but those who are religious, I think Buddhism has been one of the dominant religions there. I think is there also Shintoism? Is that another? Am I remembering correctly?
Right. No, that's correct.
So that has a lot to do with like worship of ancestors and things, right?
I believe Shintoism is a pantheistic religion.
Whereas Buddhism, at least not officially, doesn't officially have a deity.
No, it is correct to say that Buddhism is an atheistic religion.
Although the little bit I have studied, I tend to think they do treat the Buddha somewhat like a deity, at the very least, like at least like a demigod, even though they would not use that terminology necessarily. I do think there are some strands of Buddhism that do have deities, but those are, I think it's more regional, I guess, of like maybe it's kind of where there was like a religious synthesis that occurred. Again, I'm not an expert on Buddhism by any means, but that would make sense. Like, or then you have other like Zen Buddhism and Tibetan Buddhism, like other strains.
Right.
Chinese Buddhism.
So maybe not Japanese Buddhism, but some form of Buddhism I've read supposedly was atheistic in that they don't believe in a god. But yes, they do pray to the Buddhas.
Yeah, and there's this concept of, I think maybe the closest thing they have to a deity is like the concept of the eternal Buddha, but the eternal Buddha on some level, I guess, inhabits specific Buddhas or manifests as specific Buddhas, like Siddhartha Gautama, the most significant, but there's others, and then the priests there's like Buddhavistas, which I guess is sort of the equivalent of maybe a prophet of some, kind of, again, I'm not an expert on Buddhism, but I did find it interesting that it being a Japanese anime, and I can't speak for the rest of the series, but at least in this movie, didn't seem to hit on many Buddhist concepts, but they did delve into Christianity. So, like you, I did find that intriguing. Like why that choice, and maybe that has to do somewhat with the background of the creators of the series, perhaps, or the writers, like.
And speaking of that, I wanted to get into that. That's a perfect segue into it. Do you think that the reason why manga and anime, not always, but sometimes definitely tends to be more heady, is because of the emphasis on education in Japan?
That's probably, I mean, I think that's, I would say, yeah. I mean, that just looking at it as an outsider, that makes sense to me. That there's much more of an emphasis on that. Because, I was just thinking about, like, you don't have as many, definitely not animated films in the U.S. Like, the closest we have to serious animated films like that might be our DC and Marvel, and and they don't typically get that deep into philosophy, or like they'll deal with it some. Like you obviously have ideas of justice and things like that. Some of the obviously I'm thinking more of the mainstream. But yeah, I can't think. We don't definitely not the same body of work that the Japanese have in terms of
definitely not.
Deeper content, more adult oriented.
South Park, if I'm not mistaken, definitely dives into a lot of commentary, social commentary, and religious commentary and whatnot. They might do it in a less reverent way than some of this anime.
Yeah,
but I think that would count.
More like court gesture style. I mean, very comedic. We tend to take more of a comedic approach in our animation when we do deal with religion, like The Simpsons, or I haven't watched much Family Guy, so I can't say whether it deals with that much. But I know South Park definitely deals with like politics, and it goes religion, like anything's fair game from what I've heard. Like, and I haven't watched much, but.
Well, I used to watch South Park in the 90s, but anyway, it's my understanding from listening to others that South Park has a lot of commentary on things like that. I don't think that. I mean, Simpsons jokes about it, but I don't know that they make any good arguments or points. I know Family Guy definitely doesn't.
I think you do, and maybe even more so in Futurama, but you definitely... I've gotten the vibe from like Mac. I mean, obviously he's definitely not the only person involved in the creating The Simpsons, like the original creator, but like there's a general... At the very least, a general skepticism around religion, kind of, and in some episodes an antagonism, I think it might be fair to say, towards it. But they don't completely write it off necessarily either. There's even a character who's like like a Flanders who's definitely a bit self-righteous and like always follows the rules. He's also very kind and has done a lot for Homer over the years, and like so he's more complex. I mean, within that world anyway. Yeah, and like the Reverend, like the local Reverend, like most of the characters in The Simpsons, he's a bit over the top, but he's not a complete, a-hole either, Yeah, although I will say one of my favorite quotes, like, I think it was from a Treehouse of, this was an episode that I think Laura and I, maybe the only episode we ever watched together. I forget that something was happening to the church. I think someone lit it on fire or something, and then it just does a quick cut. The Simpsons sometimes does to the minister. He sees what's happening. He's like, "Not the church. Jesus lives there," and that has become a quote in our household. It just struck us both funny. It's like even from our my previous Christian perspective, like that's just kind of silly. It's like, well, no, he doesn't just live there. Like he lives in all, but on both sides of it, it like hits perfectly. It's like people that are Christians can find it funny, and people that aren't can find it funny too. Like for slightly different reasons, but like it's like a perfect joke. And but they're good at that, and almost anybody's fair game with The Simpsons. So they're equal opportunity, comedic approach, I guess.
So when we do our Simpsons episode, whenever that is, where does that fall into our schedule? Will that be a bonus episode, or will that be?
Oh, that's got to be.
Animation
I feel like that has to be a featured episode. So either we do a movie of the week where we do like the Simpsons movie, perhaps, as a launching pad into the series, or our animation. Because we have been saying that the third Wednesday is like anime, but I think we could broaden that to animation. Like we could include like say animation. Because that's all anime means, right? It's just Japanese animation, right?
Right.
When most people think of anime, they think Japanese animation. They don't think American animation, obviously. I think that does need to be one of our, because we've talked about doing it so often that we can't just like stick that away for the subscribers. I feel like that has to be available for everyone.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe we could do it as movie of the month and do because that was actually my introduction to The Simpsons, was The Simpsons movie.
Really?
Yeah, when I watched that with you, that was my first time.
I forgot we watched that together.
Yeah, like way back in the day. Not too long after it came out, I don't think.
I used to feel bad for corrupting you.
Oh, yeah, and then I got back then, like Family Video still existed, and there's probably some stores left somewhere, like there's probably like the last Family Video out there somewhere. Just there's like, I think there's one Blockbuster left in like Portland or something. There's actually a documentary about it, the last Blockbuster.
We must make our pilgrimage to Blockbuster.
But there used to be not too long ago. Like I think they only shut down a few years back. They kind of, you saw them shrinking, and then eventually just went out of business. I don't know about the one up on Renolda Road.
No, it's gone.
Is it gone too? Okay,
Yeah.
well, I guess the company went out of business. But anyway, like back around the time I first saw that with you, they had, you could rent like a whole TV season for like $3, and you get it for 5 days. So you rent like a whole season. So I started going there, and I rented like Simpsons seasons, because you didn't really have the streaming options back then. You could get it through Netflix, DVD rental, but it was easier for me at the time just to go to Family Video and rent it.
And I've still got and for some reason you bought a few seasons of Simpsons on DVD, and then you just gave them to me.
Oh yeah, like as for your birthday or something.
Yeah, so I've still got.
Probably got them from McKay's.
Yeah, you did, and I've got seasons 1, 2, 3, and 5.
Yeah, and obviously, if you have Disney Plus, you can see the entirety of the series. I think, with the exception of the newest season, which I think is only on Hulu.
Yeah.
Which the two are going to merge before too long. I've heard Hulu and Disney Plus are apparently going to, which they're already owned by the same people, so they're eventually going to merge into one app. So they say.
Yeah, I canceled my Disney Plus because I need to just cut back on my bills, but I guess I'll be getting it back soon.
Yeah,
I was sad that when I went to watch Simpsons that I could only watch the recent season, but oh well.
Yeah, but I believe all 30 odd seasons are on Disney Plus. I have been for a while, I think.
Except for the Michael Jackson episode.
Oh, they took that out.
Yeah.
They get sued by Michael or something?
No, I don't. I haven't seen this episode to my knowledge, but apparently there was something that they thought was inappropriate in it.
Oh, maybe a joke about pedophilia or something.
Maybe.
He was accused of that, which there's no evidence, no firm evidence that he was ever guilty of it. He definitely made some weird choices. I think it might be fair to say, or at least maybe some choices of questionable wisdom.
Yeah, that's probably my wife.
Yeah, I'm sure mine will be trying to contact me here soon too. Yeah, we're going long, so we should probably wrap this up. I'm surprised your phone's still alive. It was at 9% like an hour ago. Anyway, so yeah, we recommend this film, and it's good as a standalone. Like if like us, you don't really I don't have the time to go back and watch the whole series. Like there's so many other series that I've already started. Like even within the course of our, we just started Jujutsu Kaisen, and then My Hero Academia.
Yeah.
And Demon Slayer. We've done like the first few episodes of covered of multiple series. So like here's yet another one. I was like it's like I'm kind of doing it to myself in some sense. I'm like keeping myself interested, and I'm like, I don't have time to watch all of these. Like I have other things I need to do. But the movie's great on its own. Like it's a really good film on its own. So I recommend it. Do you recommend it?
I do. It is a really great film. My rating, whether my rating is correct or not, it's a really great film. The cars looked CGI weird, but it was a really great film. Not all the cars, but you'll see what we're talking about if you see the film. But yeah, I recommend it.
Cool. So, like the average rating, if we average out our rating, we gave it 4 nerd hats between the two of us. That's the split the difference.
Yeah, that seems
4
fair.
nerd hats. That's pretty good. I think that's pretty good. Yeah. So nerds, next week will be our movie of the month, which we've already been talking about what we want to do, but we haven't nailed it down yet. But we've got several candidates that we're discussing as an option. But yeah, that's our movie of the month coming next week. And And then again on the 21st, we're going to be, which we need to record that. We're supposed to be dropping a bonus episode for subscribers only. We've already got ideas for that too. We just haven't done it. We just got to do it. So hey, nerds, until next time.
Until next time.
Live long and prosper.
Sayonara.
Thank you so much for joining us for another episode of the Irreverent Nerds podcast. If you would, consider following us on Instagram. We are there at irreverent_nerds. You can also hit us up on Facebook. Just look us up there at the Irreverent Nerds. That's our fan page. We have a YouTube channel as well. Once again, the Irreverent Nerds. Nice and simple, right? And if you go to www.irreverentnerds.com, that will send you to our Podcasters for Spotify, formerly Anchor.fm profile, where you can send us a voice message if you want to, support us financially, or listen to the podcast. It will also direct you to other places you can listen, like Spotify, Apple, Google, Stitcher, you name it. So, like, comment, subscribe, follow, all those good things, wherever you find us, wherever you listen to us, we would greatly appreciate it. Until next time, nerds, live long and prosper. Avengers assemble! I'm Batman.